Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC is a new game mode taking on a roguelike formula where you'll need to get through multiple objectives to reach a goal. And of course, since this is a part of the Splatoon series, we are able to use swim form, which lets us climb walls, move faster, and refill ink for our weapons. So I decided I would try to find out an answer to the question, is it possible to beat Splatoon 3 Side Order without swim form? The rules for this challenge are very simple. If we use swim form, I will add a point to our counter on the bottom right. Since we don't have launch pads or level kettles to worry about, we don't have an excuse anymore to press ZL, so this time it's completely off limits, as well as the Kraken Royale. This game starts off in Ingopolis Square, but something doesn't seem quite right. It's completely colorless. After we design our character, we meet up with Pearl, but in robot form, and she's here to help us on our journey to the top of the Spire, where we can save Marina. After entering the Spire, we get attacked by some enemies called Gelatins, and Pearl gives us dualies to fight back. These aren't that difficult to defeat, thankfully, so we can head on over to the elevator where we meet Act, who shows us how to use a pallet, which is a board we can insert chips into that will upgrade our gear, such as giving us more damage with our weapons, or giving us more speed while swimming, which we wouldn't even be able to use. The first floor, titled First.Floor, begins by showing us our very first objective: destroy the portal. These portals spawn enemies, so if we break it, enemies will stop spawning in from that area. I started dealing damage from below, but I was attacked and had to move away from that area. I noticed there was some damage still being dealt to the portal once I stopped shooting though, so I was kind of confused about that, but was still able to complete the floor with ease. The second floor, titled Turf.Floor, actually answered the damage question I had previously. This was Poison Ink, which is supposed to deal damage over time if an enemy is on your ink. So I was going to test out something since the poison damage was coming from the base of the portal. I damaged all the portals at once, then waited for them to take as much damage as they could. They never blew up from the poison, but we were able to explode them by shooting one shot for each of them. The third floor can be done similarly, and the fourth floor shows a new objective which requires a set zone to have ink on it for a certain amount of time. This floor also teaches us about gliding, which can be activated by jumping and then pressing B at the height of our jump. It wasn't very difficult, but the next floor immediately shows an issue for us. This floor is a Turbine Tower floor, as well as a tutorial for the weapons Pearl is able to use to assist us. But my issue is this giant wall. We can't climb up it, but what makes me even more confused is seeing how this wall material doesn't even allow ink to be placed on it. So we wouldn't even be able to get on top of the wall even if we wanted to. That's where the springing Spiccato enemy comes in. These enemies like to hop around everywhere, and once you can defeat one, you can use their spring to jump to otherwise unreachable areas and complete this floor very easily. The next floor is another Splat Zone floor, but it shows us the Step Off song, where if we collect 3 discs, a song will play that pushes away enemies and clogs up their spawn point. The next 3 floors give us an option for what chip we want to go for, and 2 of these floor choices had objectives we've seen before, while one of them had us defeat only 3 enemies. The catch with this is that these enemies can run away faster than we can catch up, but overall they still weren't all that difficult to get past, and we can move on to floor 10, where we find Marina tangled up in some kind of machine. This boss battle is pretty much a more intense version of the portal destroying objective. We need to break 4 portals, and then we can attack Marina since it will break the barrier surrounding her. After dealing enough damage, we can save the day and find our true enemy, who kicks us out of the Spire and extends it by adding 20 more floors. So now that the Spire is corrupted, we take more damage, we only have 1 life, and we do less damage to enemies. Thankfully, it's not all that bad. Marina is here to help us by giving us hacks that can give us more lives, deal more damage, and overall just make things so much easier for us. But we don't really start out with very many pearls, which would allow us to purchase these hacks so we don't have to go through the Spire completely empty-handed to start out. My first attempt, floor 1, has us defeat fleeing foes to unlock shot piercing. This was fairly easy since I got the enemies to get stuck in my ink. The second floor had us escort a Turbine Tower for an ink recovery upgrade, which was fairly simple. For the third floor, I saw there was an option marked as rigorous, so I picked that to see what it would be like since the other floors seemed too easy. Note to self, don't do that. It was not worth it, especially since I've just started playing this DLC. Thankfully, the second attempt went much farther than 3 floors. I started out with a Lucky Bomb drop chip on a Turbine Tower stage that went by pretty quickly. For the second floor, I was going to see about mobile ink recovery, but was a bit confused because of the octopus put on its icon. I decided against it and went for ink attack size instead. This floor had us bring 8 balls to certain points on the map, and of course it was very easy. At this point, you can probably tell I'm trying to pick the easiest levels so I could have an easier time getting to the top of the Spire, and by using this method, I was able to reach floor 10, which puts us against the pinging Martial. When I first saw it, I thought it was going to be like the Octo world from Splatoon 1, but it's very different besides one of the attacks. All we have to do for this boss is damage him on the unarmored areas, and try not to let him hit the bumpers placed all over the map. This boss is pretty much an endurance battle, so we can easily get past with very little trouble. I say easy as if most of the battle wasn't spent on chasing the boss. On the 12th floor, we learn about dangerous floors, which pose more of a challenge than the normal floors. But since this floor would give us 2 chips towards our fire rate, I decided I should just go in since it would most likely be worth our time. This floor gave us Splat Zones, and we could barely see anything in front of us. Even the things that were on screen, I somehow didn't notice. It was possible, but just not very good. On floor 13, I lost a life, and this map I died on is my least favorite map in this entire game, and I knew this immediately and left so I wouldn't have to play it. After a while, we can reach a vending machine floor, and this pretty much replaces an entire floor so we can use membucks to buy chips or lives. It's very useful, especially if you need a break from whatever this is. After a while, we can reach floor 20, which brings us to another boss battle, which is against the Asynchronous Rondo. And this thing was crazy difficult. It kept attacking and putting enemies in our way. I feel like I couldn't really do anything other than run. But my running was too slow, so I lost both the lives I had. We did get some keys from this run though, so I was able to open up some lockers that gave me access to more sets of weapons. We also got more pearls from this, so I decided to purchase more hacks to make things a bit easier. On my 3rd attempt, I easily made it to floor 10, and this brought me back to the Asynchronous Rondo. But while I was fighting this boss, I was wondering about how I could start moving faster, and after I defeated the boss, I did find a way to move faster. The Pearl Drone. In the tutorial, we were told we could jump and press the jump button a second time to use the Pearl Drone. And if you didn't notice, this makes us go slightly faster than our normal walking speed. So now we can easily get away from situations we don't want to be in since we can actually move fast now. We did fail on floor 20 unfortunately, but it was definitely worth it to find out some knowledge we're going to use for the rest of this challenge. It helps us so much, in fact, that we were able to reach floor 26 on our very next attempt. On my 5th attempt, I swept through all the floors easily, and was able to reach floor 29 with the bonus challenge, Don't Move in Swim Form. Seeing this made my heart skip a beat. Does Nintendo know? These words also made me notice something kind of odd. Have you noticed there are no walls in this game so far? Every wall has a ramp that we can walk up. Even if there was a wall, we could jump off using the enemy springs. Was this game mode made with this challenge in mind? I guess we can only find that out at floor 30, the control room. This time, our boss battle is against Overlord. And this guy isn't that difficult, besides 2 of the attacks he has. For one of them, he starts shooting stingrays at us, and he spins around just as fast as we can run away, so we have to pretty much use the Pearl Drone frame perfectly in order to not get hit. The second attack he has is 4 reef sliders. If we get hit by one of these, it's probably over. We're way too fragile to even look at one of these things without taking damage. So there goes another attempt, all the way from floor 30 to 0. We do get an option to try a run again from where we died using pearls, but I decided if I want to do this challenge, I'm going to have to do it the right way, all in a single run. After all, I think Nintendo already knows it's supposed to be possible, so I went in again with the Splatling, and I dislike the Splatling. Next I went with the Sniper and got some drone splat bomb chips, homing shots, and quick charge chips. This made it possible to not only reach floor 30, but die to the reef sliders again. 2 attempts later, I decided to invest my pearls to get hacks that would help out our Pearl Drone so she could do some of the attacking for us. We did have the bucket though, so I wasn't really expecting that much from this attempt. I did get the droning strike as my first chip though, so at least I would be able to test it out to see if it was any good. Honestly, it's the best hack you can buy. Asynchronous Rondo was easy, that terrible portal map was manageable, and then we had to fight the parallel cannon boss, which seems to be like the Octolink stages from the previous games, and yes, they are the exact same thing, which means I already know how to take care of these guys easily. Pro was even able to take a few out. Eventually, we were able to make it to the Overlorder with 4 chips on Drone Killer Whale, 5 on Drone Ink Strike, chips for mobile special charges, and a bunch of chips going towards lucky drops. As you can see, instead of just going for the easy levels this time around, I actually tried to create sets for my weapons that wouldn't really make the bucket as useful as it's supposed to be. And those reef sliders that usually end these runs, I was able to dodge them by going behind a wall. This makes this boss possible and brings us to the second phase of the final fight, where we lose all of our chips and have to break them out of these portals. After we've collected them all, we can deal a ton of damage to the Overlorder and finish the game without using swim form a single time. But we aren't done just yet. If we go back to Inkopolis Square, we can see that there are still things left to do, such as completing the game with every weapon, and you can see those all being done on the members only videos. But something I do think I should also show in this video is if it's possible to beat this game without using Marina's hacks. Hacks are a big part of this game, but it kind of makes everything too easy. So I switched all the hacks to the lowest they can be, so now I can take twice as much damage, I can't use Pearl's Inkzuka, and I can't die a single time. Out of all the weapons we have access to, I decided it might be in my best interest to use the Octobrush. We can potentially have faster movement, and of course that means being able to consistently outrun Overlorder's stingrays, which we definitely need since we're very fragile without hacks. For our first floor, I picked Special Charge Up on a Splat Zone's map. The only enemies there didn't really seem to pose a threat to our zone, so it was completed very easily. The second floor I picked was for main weapon range. This floor was also very easy. The next floor after that also had main weapon range, so I chose that to add on to my range and membucks. Floor 4 let me pick Special Charge Up once again, so I decided I should go for it since I could potentially spam my special moves if I get more special growth chips. Already I am able to use my specials early on, so it is making a difference. A few floors after that, I wasn't really able to find anything that I really wanted, so I picked floors that I knew wouldn't give me too much of a risk. 2 of these were Ink Attack damage, and 1 of these was Ink Attack size. On floor 9, we found ourselves at a vending machine, and it was selling the one thing I wanted to use the brush for: moving ink speed. So I brought 2 of those because it was all I could afford. Then I went over to floor 10, where we once again met with a boss. And it was definitely not ideal being so close to this boss so we could deal damage, but we had to do it in order to get past. Thankfully it was possible, and the next floor we got gave us an offer we couldn't refuse: double chips going towards moving ink speed. Now we run at crazy speeds with our brush. This makes the fleeing foes objective so easy to the point where we can chase down the enemies faster than they can keep running. So pretty much anytime we get these, it's going to be a free floor. Unfortunately, this doesn't mean all the other objectives are going to be very easy for us. Frantic double-decker crisscross floor. This Splat Zone's floor was not what I was expecting it to be. We need to splat a zone at the top of the map and the bottom of the map, all the while we have swarms of enemies constantly spawning in over and over, making it almost impossible to get through. Almost. This floor required me to run away for almost 6 minutes. I was struggling trying to get just 1 point for these zones, but it was still possible. After that mess, I decided to go for a chip that gave me the killer whale, and it wasn't so bad for a Turbine Tower floor, especially since we constantly kept getting to use our Stamper special. After that, I was able to go to another vending machine that had Special Charge Up, and right after, we got a floor that had our 5th moving ink speed chip. I felt like I was completely invincible when I got to floor 20. There was no way the Asynchronous Rondo was going to end this run, and it didn't. Once we made it to floor 23, we once again got another double chip floor, and the chip we got was Mobile Special Charge. At this point, I wasn't confused about this. Even though it shows an octopus on its icon, mobile counts for swim form and kid form. So this was the obvious choice for us to choose for our current setup. And at this point, I think I was actually invincible. This is officially my favorite setup in the game, hands down. But the only way to prove this is fighting the Overlorder once again. So let's see if this challenge is truly possible. This boss starts out the same as it always does. We need to destroy these portals, and these are very easy to take out if we run around a bit before using our Stamper. The most important part of this battle though is of course that we can outrun the Stingray and the Reef Sliders. So after hitting the Overlorder a bunch, we can officially complete this challenge with swim form needed a total of 0 times. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was surprisingly not as difficult to make as I thought it would be, and because of that, I encourage you guys to try out this challenge as well. If you do decide to try it out, make sure to mention me in the description so I see its notification, or just comment about how it went in this comment section. But yeah, that's all I got.